Man, the Devil's River for me is a hard reset. And it doesn't matter if I'm going with me and my friends or if I'm guiding the trip. The Devil's for me is a very hard reset. It's a chance for me to clear my head and even sort through things more clearly. No distractions, no cell phones, no nothing. And even with the clients around, we've got a lot of time of quiet, a lot of time of looking around. When you can put yourself in those situations, it gives your mind an opportunity to behave like it's supposed to in an environment that it was geared for. It's like a mental deep breath. It's day 3 on the Devil's River. If you missed day 1 and 2 in part 1, we drank from the springs that feed the river. We jumped off Dolan Falls. We ate like kings. We looked at natural history. We looked at the diversity of the species out here, and we figured out how to catch them.
So I'm JAHMICAH DAWES. I own and operate Slim Pickens Outfitters. We're an outdoor retailer shop in Stephenville, Texas. We're the first Black-owned retailer, outdoor retailer. When I thought about fly fishing in the past, it was middle-aged to old, affluent white males in, their personal ranches up in Colorado, Montana, Wyoming, with waders up to their nipples, kind of casting out into a stream. When I really finally got introduced to fly fishing and said yes, and the first couple of events I went to, and the anglers I met, both men and women, like, it blew my mind. These are men and women that are tatted up with gauges on their gauges in their ears, and just like, but also the love that they had for this sport, how they engaged with me, how they engaged with like boys and girls younger than me. Of like, I remember seeing this one competition, and it was this cat, really cool cat, Chris Fowler. This girl caught a fish, and like, he went up and celebrated with her, like, like she had just won the lottery or something. And the look on the girl's face, I was just like, man, like, these people, there's a community here. There's a community here that's inviting me in. And well, I remember the last kind of outdoor community that invited me in, that worked out really well, college friends. And so I was like, yeah, let me give this a shot. And I'm so glad I did, because like, that's my passion now. That is definitely, when it comes to the outdoors, that's my gateway into all these other opportunities, like camping, like kayaking, and ultimately like floating the Devil's River. I still can't believe that this is happening.
My name is Helena Hernandez, and I am a shrink. I'm a psychiatric physician assistant. In addition to that, and I think more important, I'm an immigrant. What I like about fly fishing, like the first hook for me, was seeing someone casting, and I thought it looked so beautiful. The more specific reason I got into fly fishing is, so I'm part of a shooting league out in Dallas, and one day I was doing really bad and I felt awful, and I was on my way home. It was nighttime, and I got a message on Instagram from Tailwaters, and they said, hey, there's an intro to fly fishing women's night tonight, why don't you go? And I was right on the way home, and I thought, hey, why not? And I went, and next thing you know, I'm part of the ladies fly fishing club, and I'm going on events. The next thing that really got me hooked on fly fishing is being in a river. The first serious time I went fly fishing was through Stewards back in April. We were on the Blanco, we were on the San Marcos, on the Guadalupe, and we went wade fishing. And just having your legs in the water, feeling the water running across your legs, hearing the water gently running, time passes. You just are so immersed in the experience. It's really relaxing. I love it. It's different from shooting. I feel like shooting is more high adrenaline, and this one is a good complement to that.
Like I said, it's beginning of day 3. We're going to have a good breakfast by Ben Huddleston, our Camp Jack. We're going to get plenty of coffee from Whiskey Morning Coffee, and we really need to get camp packed up quickly and head downstream because we've got some additional miles to cover before we can make camp. For lunch, we typically stop and get to take a look at some of the petroglyphs. Now, keep in mind all this is private property, so we're not climbing up there, we're not taking selfies with them, but we are looking at them from a very respectful distance and chowing down quickly before we load back up. The petroglyphs of the Trans-Pecos use the thistle a lot in their imagery. They use the coyote, they use the turkey, and they use the shaman or the medicine man. I haven't done research in a while, but last time I did, there wasn't too terribly much known about the tribe that was making the artwork, but it is consistent with art that's seen in other places in South America. And either way, it's just really cool. And once you see the coyote chasing the turkey, it's kind of a surreal feeling to know that you're stomping around and sharing the same ground with folks that made that art hundreds of years ago, thousands of years ago. Okay, so day 3, we do have a lot more ground to cover. However, we get rewarded with a ton of changing landscape. We get to see the narrows, where the river goes from wide and fairly shallow to relatively deep and turbulent, and then finally down to super deep and very narrow, the long stretches. For camp night 3, we like to stay at one of the paddler camps. It's right near the Devil's Back, but it's got more real estate, it's got more structure. There's a little bit of coastal Bermuda, there's some soft ground to camp on. There's some very flat, very level limestone and rock to camp on. There's wind shelters, and it's just I think overall, all of our clients this time and this go around, and as usual, enjoyed this camp more than any of them. So here at Fatty's Guide Co., we like to think that we are white glove but approachable. And what I mean by that is regardless if it's the Devil's River, the Pecos River, the Brazos River, Trinity, you name it, just because we're roughing it and we're experiencing this outdoor adventure doesn't mean that we have to eat poorly. I guarantee you, by the end of this trip, you will walk away being fed well, treated well, and fished very, very hard. So on the last night of any of these trips, we like to make sure we treat our clients right. We typically have a ribeye steak. In this part of the world, we get them at Casinos Meat Market. We'll also have potatoes, a couple of other fresh vegetables on hand. And hell, even leading up to this, we had mule deer barbacoa. We had wild hog stew, white stew, that our Camp Jack Ben and his wife made. We had cornbread. We've had fajitas. We've had handmade sausage. All the jerky our friend made, and all the protein sticks our friend made. So we don't take our meals very lightly around here. Camp's an important time, and I think when people book these trips, or when they think about like a mental expectation before the trip, they don't put a whole lot of weight on camp and what happens there. But that's your time for the day, if you can think of it, to kind of stop, slow down, chill out, get clean, get dried off, and reflect a little bit. And not only that, there's a lot of power in a fire. And so you get a chance to connect and engage with the people that you've been on the river with all day, near but not close enough to really have good, meaningful conversation. So it's pretty cool to see what happens every night when we get gathered up. It's day 4, and day 4 is a little bit bittersweet. We've got a deadline to get out of the river and meet our shuttle. In addition to that little challenge, we've got quite a few miles to cover. We've got to get up a little bit early. We've got to get our stuff together. And again, about it being bittersweet, you've just established a relationship with all these people. You've figured out how to work together as one cohesive unit and move down the river effectively and efficiently. And now all of a sudden you know it's about to end, and it kind of sucks. Because we know the fishing in this zone is really good, but we know as soon as we get to the end of it, that's it. In this part of the world, it's predominantly privately owned property. There's very few places to put in and take out, and to be able to access those places, you have to have a licensed shuttle service come and pick you up, and you've got to schedule that months in advance.
Trip means that change is coming. And I think change is already here, but like a good kind of change. I think the future is not only bright, but I think it's colorful. I think it's inviting, it's welcoming. And I think that's what this trip means to me, but I think also what I hope comes from this trip is, first of all, Ben can never say that again. That, you know, not only that he's never guided a black person down the Devils, but another person of color. Selfishly, I want this to change the trajectory of kind of the people that start seeking out, whether it's him or somebody else, but really, I hope it's him because he's advocated for us, and I've advocated for him. And like, when I introduce people into fly fishing, I want Ben to either initially be involved or to soon come after and meet them, because like, I want them to have a new or maybe renewed mindset and concept of like what this sport and what this hobby, what this passion is about, and the people that are involved in it. And so, yeah, I think that's like what this trip means for me is change, but also, again, access, increased access, increased representation. So something about this, I've missed my wife and my sons immensely. Crazy missed them. But I mean, I couldn't snap my fingers and just be off the river. Like, there's still miles to go, there's still days ahead. It's changed me and taught me to be patient. You know, we had this saying in ministry, this acronym, when we would go on mission trips, to be FAT, and that's F-A-T, flexible, available, accessible, and teachable. And so the first day coming here, what I kind of thought this trip was going to be and what it turned out being, that was constantly in my mind, like, okay, you need to be flexible, be available, be accessible, and be teachable. And it's weird to say, but I hope this time on the Devils makes me a better husband, a better father, a better ambassador for fly fishing in the outdoors and representation. Like, I want these experiences to make me better, but also to be like an advocate for other people. Like, you've just got to get out here. Again, before this, I heard people's stories and I was like, oh, there was kind of like, oh yeah, that's cool. There was no connection there. There was no, you know, like that was, now I'm connected to the Devils. Now I have my own story. Now I can share that narrative with other people, and not say like, hey, live vicariously through mine, but like, no. There's opportunity. I know a guide who was amazing, who was patient, who's got a good crew and good fellowship around him, like, and you can create your own story on the Devils just like me.
Oh, that's something that I'm still processing. But this is a big enough trip that I think it's gonna give birth to like little baby trips. So it's my first kayak camping trip, and I definitely feel like this is the beginning of my kayak camping adventures. I will say though, like, for what I realized so far, because this is still developing, what I've learned from kayak camping on the Devils, especially on a trip this long and this involved, is, you know, you start off as friends and you end up as family. And I've been saying this again and again, community. It's all about community. You know, you do things outdoors. There's certain things that you do by yourself. But I think the best trips are these kinds that, you know, you can share with other people. The entertainment, no, that's not the word I would use. The enjoyment, the memories get magnified. So it's so much better. I was thinking about this while we were on the river, and I've mentioned this before too, but I like the beauty of places that are far-flung, that are hard to access. And I'm a little bit torn because, you know, when you see something beautiful, you enjoy it so much, you want to share it with people. And that's something that I'm sitting with, like, its beauty is in how inaccessible it is, how pristine it is. Do I want to tell everyone how beautiful it is? I think the answer to that would be yes, because I think the Devils tests people even before you get here and when you're on it. So it's like everyone can know about it, but not everyone will get on it. But yeah, that's still something that I'm sitting with. Like, it's beautiful. Do I really want to tell everyone about it? Do I want everyone to be coming on it? Yeah.
So when you come to the Devils, know that it's going to be both physically and mentally demanding, but it's also going to be very, very rewarding. The scenery is breathtaking, the fishing is unparalleled, the water's gin clear, the stars at night, you've never seen dark until you've been out there. Like, it is everything you want it to be and more. And again, though it is mentally and physically challenging at times, it is worth every last bit of effort that it takes to get down here. It's a strange place where you've got river plants and desert plants just shoulder to shoulder, you know what I mean? It doesn't make sense. You've got big stands of like oaks and pecans and sycamores, and then 100 yards out from that, it's like Weesach, blackbrush, ocotillo, the devil's walking stick, cactus. Like, it's gnarly. I don't know, a dynamic. The devil's is dynamic. The devil's is powerful but quiet. Like, it's a weird deal because it doesn't take that long for you to get messed up and the trip's done. But outside looking in, you're up on the banks looking down, and it's just majestic and beautiful and quiet and peaceful. The only way to keep places like this in existence as they are is to have more advocates. And I tell you right now, if you haven't been out here and you haven't experienced it, you're not going to be very willing to donate towards it or contribute to it or stand up for it or have a voice for it. And I think the best way that we can get advocacy for these wild spaces that we can all share outside is to bring more people to it. And we feel like this trip, this experience on the river, and this film project is a very good example of everybody outside. Thank you guys so much for following along for part 2 of the Devil's River. That wraps it all up. We got to see some amazing scenery, got to catch some amazing fish, and really got to meet some great people. Like it, subscribe to it, share it, and tell your friends about it. We'll see you on the water.
I guess, what do you hope for the future for all people outdoors?
For the future, I hope it grows. It needs to grow. It has to grow. Like that. This is not going to work if it doesn't grow, and it has to grow. And other people representing other cultures have to see these things that I've seen, because those kinds of stories are worth telling.